You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey, Shae, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, Shae, I usually ask everybody if they've ever went to film school, but you're 10 years old and you're not at that college level yet. So I want to
not yet.
So I'm going to change the question just a little bit and ask, what got you into the film industry? Have you always had a love for acting, as you were growing up?
Well, actually, I am from Iowa, and I started with here in Iowa called the Peak Agency, and with them, and then he said, I think he'd be.
Yeah, it's
a few commercials. I got a few commercials.
Hey, Shae, I'm sorry. I think the call just dropped a little bit.
We said go to LA. So now we're going back and forth from LA, and that's how I got started.
Hey, Shae, I'm sorry. I think the call just dropped there for a second. It seems. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'm sorry for it. Seemed to be it just dipped there for a second. I'm very sorry. Would you mind just answering that question again? I apologize.
Yeah, of course. So I here in Iowa called the Peak Agency, and I and then he said you should get in. Started with a few. So you should go to a bigger market. So then he said you should go to Chicago. A couple commercials and a couple of little. We go back, and he says you should go to a much, much bigger market. So then he says you need to go to LA if you want to really. So now we're in LA going back and forth.
Hey, Shae, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think the call just cut out again. I'm very sorry. If you could hear me, I'm going to go do one quick thing, and I'm going to try to establish a better connection. I'm not sure if it's just maybe the call reception, but I will be right back, okay? Hey, Shae, I'm back. Sorry about that. I actually just changed a setting really quickly, and I also connected to my router directly, so hopefully that'll be a little bit better.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So I'm sorry. Could we try that one more time? I'll feed you the same.
Yeah.
It's like being on a film set, right? We're doing multiple takes.
Yes.
So Shae, obviously I always ask everyone how they got started, and since you're not old enough to be in college yet, could I? So were you always interested in acting, even from an early age?
I I was. So I started here in Iowa because this is where I was born and from. And I started with a little agency here in Iowa. I started modeling with them. And then I started to get more into acting. I did a couple commercials here. And then he says, if you want to go to a bigger market, you can go to Chicago. So now that's like a 5-hour away trip from Iowa. So then sometimes we drive out there to do some commercial auditions and TV auditions. And then he said, if you want to really pursue your dream, you need to go to a much bigger market. So then we went out to LA and I got a couple commercials and then some TV shows and then online things. And then he says, yeah, now we go back and forth from LA to Iowa. 9 months out of the year, we're in LA.
So what was it like when your first time going out to LA at such like a young age? You know, what were your like impressions of the whole city?
My impressions were, you know, it's such a big city that it's so busy and there's a lot of trash there. And it's not like Iowa at all, not one single bit. So I was kind of nervous because I had never been to that big of a state before. And, so I was very nervous but then I got into it more and now I like it there.
So when you go around,
but it was dirty there.
Yeah, I mean, because it is. I mean, LA is. I had a friend who went out there one time, and she actually went out there for business, and she said, "Dave, it was so smoggy out there."
Yes, it gets very smoggy out there.
So as you're going to all these auditions, Shae, what are some of the things that you're noticing? Like, do you sort of like have a game plan? Like, for instance, you mentioned these commercials. Do you sort of know exactly what you want to do before you get in there, or do you just spontaneously want to come up with something right on the spot?
I just come up with something right on the spot. So if I'm thinking of an emotion in my head, that's what I would do in the audition.
Oh, so that's actually pretty cool. And it's interesting to hear that because I sometimes hear actors they think about all this stuff so much, and then they sort of overthink this, if you know what I mean. And then they get into the audition and they're nervous, and they what I mean. So it's always good, being able to come off the cuff like that. It's just it's a great skill to have.
Yes.
So
it is. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, Shae. So when you're going along to these auditions and stuff like that, do you ever get nervous at all, Shae? Because honestly, been talking to you, I don't think you do, but I'm just going to ask anyway.
I don't, because I know if I mess up, I can always go back line, and it's not the end of the world if I mess up or anything. It's just I won't book that. And if I mess up, that's okay. There's always another audition that I can do, and yeah. So I never, ever get nervous.
So Shae, you study with some acting coaches out in LA, and what were some of the things that you've worked on with them? Like what were some of the things that really when you're going through all these different sort of courses or workshops or classes, what are some of the things that stand out that you've taken away that you've really added to your acting career?
Getting emotional is something that I'm really good at. So crying on set and really getting into that emotional state is what I'm pretty good at it. And that's what my coaches helped me with.
So, and honestly, that's good. Having these coaches in your life, you see the importance of having the people who've actually done it and coming out and sort of, guiding you through this. So Shae, as you started to get these commercials and different parts, were you ever, when you got on set, were you, maybe even the first time, were you ever just a little bit nervous or maybe just even a little bit taken aback by just maybe the scale of some of these productions?
Yeah, just seeing all those big cameras, I was nervous for the first ever time I did book a commercial. Just seeing all the people around and seeing all the big lights and the cameras and the whole set was very nerve-wracking for me because, it's my first ever time seeing those things.
So on your IMDb, one of the first things that you have is Flo and Evelyn, which is a web series. So, just doing a web series like that, what were some of the memories that you took away, being that, I guess it was your first web series at the time?
Yeah, it's just meeting new friends and just doing what you love is just taken away by the memories because it's amazing to meet new friends, to be on set with everyone, and it's awesome.
So when you're on set, Shae, do you, I mean, because I don't know if there maybe is a lot of other, people like, kids your age. So maybe there's just a lot of different, maybe adults or something like that. So when you're on set, and I'm asking this question because of a lot of, maybe parents who want to get their kids into acting, or maybe even, kids your age who are going to listen to this episode, what is it like on set? Maybe if there isn't someone your age on set with you.
Well, you just kind of act like the other person is a kid. It's not that big of a deal, even though you have a set teacher there, and she is kind of like the kid to you. She plays games with you. She teaches you school. So our set teacher is kind of like a kid to us. But all of the other actors, you just kind of roll with it, and you don't really get fazed by it because, it may not be a kid, but it's still a teenager or grown up, and you still talk to them and act with them, so you still have to get in the character with them.
Hey, that is an excellent answer, by the way, Shae. I never thought of it like
Thank
that. So Shae, as we go along with your acting career, you said you spent you were going back and forth between Iowa and LA. Was there ever a point where you started to maybe even say to yourself, like, wow, all I'm doing is, I'm spending so much time in LA, because you've had a lot of roles over the past couple of years. So was there ever a time where you're like, maybe, saying, wow, I'm spending so much time out here in LA. It's like time's just flying by.
Yes. My past 2 years have flown by so fast because I've been filming, and it's just so amazing that time can fly that fast when you're having fun.
Yeah, and that's good. You're having fun. That's one of the things, right? Filmmaking and acting and doing all this wonderful creative stuff. It's supposed to be fun at the end of the day.
It is, and you have to think of that as not just being on set. It's having fun and not just being on set. You aren't just filming; you're having fun.
So when you finally got the audition for The Hatred, I mean, and again, I want to talk about the movie The Hatred, obviously, because we're this movie's coming out September the 12th.
Yes.
And I don't know, by the way, Shae, before I ask you this question, I want to ask you another question. Do you know that the trailer is over 12 million views or something ridiculous?
Oh my gosh, it's awesome! It's gone viral. It's so cool. That's 15 million views.
It's unbelievable. I mean, because you're in the trailer front and center, and I was I was showing people the trailer, and I'm like, my gosh, these guys have got 15 million views already.
I know, it's so awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and I'm so happy for you guys, and I'm so happy for everyone on production. And I wanted to ask about The Hatred, and so when you're auditioning for something like that, it's obviously a horror movie. Was there ever any maybe you had second thoughts or anything about auditioning? Because I mean, it is a horror movie, and maybe it would just be a little. I mean, I don't. It's a little bit different than maybe doing commercials and web series. So did you just want to try something different, or were you just basically thinking to yourself, maybe I should just go for this because it's different? That's what I'm trying to say.
I was just thinking, I need to go for this one. I know it's going to be a good one, and I know that this will be big, so I need this lead role. So
when you had the audition for The Hatred, again, as you just told me, you come up with things on the spot. But what was your audition like, for The Hatred in front of the casting director and in front of Mike?
Oh, well, first I read the script, and I was like, wow, the script is awesome. I need to book this. This is awesome. I'm the lead role. So I went in, and I met Michael. And I was like, whoa, is he the director? He is so nice. He's the nicest person in the world. Then I did it, and then he's like, hey, we should go out to lunch. It was so fun. He's such a nice guy, and I loved it. It was a great audition.
And I'm glad you had a blast. Because, yeah, Mike is a really, really cool guy. Really cool guy to meet. Because he and I met.
So was Malik.
Oh, cool. You met Malik, too. That's awesome.
I did.
So, because I'm actually going to have Mike has already been on the show before, and I'm going to have Malik on soon enough. I'm interviewing pretty much everybody from The Hatred. So, if you name somebody, yeah. So I'm going to put this all together in separate interview. But you're going to love it when it's done. It's going to be this really really cool insight into a movie about from beginning to end. So, I wanted to ask too, Shae, how did you hear about the audition for The Hatred?
Well, my mom called me and said, "Hey, Shae, you have an audition for a horror film." And this is when I was with my babysitter at the time because my mom was working. And she goes, "Shae, you have a audition for a horror film." And I'm like, I've never been on a horror film before, and it was my first ever feature film. So I was really excited. I went into the audition very happy and energetic, and then I got into that character, and then I heard I got a call back. So I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is my big film. And then I got pinned for it, which means it's between me and probably 2 or 3 other girls. And then they called me and they said, "You booked it." And me and my mom were like, "Yay, Shae, yay." And we were just so excited.
So, I mean, and you obviously, you got the part, and you're front and center in the trailer. So I wanted to ask you, when you're actually on set the first day and you're filming, and again, this is a horror movie, and this is a really, really interesting, really cool horror movie. Was there ever a time where you were on set and you were like, wow, this is getting like, pretty intense?
Yeah, when we were filming that scene where I was on top of the bed and yet you look under there and it was stormy outside and then you look up and there's the monster, I was actually kind of scared for that because it's like, that person's going to get me. But besides that, I was not scared because you're friends with the people who are on set, you're friends with the scary monster, they're talking about their kids, they're just a normal person and yet they are very creepy. So
yeah, well, it is good that they did talk to you too, and they got to know you. So, but yeah, I mean, because I saw that, and that was the part of the trailer that I see a lot of people talking about too. Was that one that scene where they show you on top of the bed, and then the parent goes and they look under the bed, and then there's you, and you say, "Well, that's not me." And
that's not me.
And they look up and the other you on top of the bed is now a monster. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that too. With some of the comments are like, "Oh my gosh, look at that, that's so cool." And so with you being front and center in the trailer, have you been getting noticed? Because I mean, we just mentioned the trailer going viral, like 15 million views. So are people noticing you now, Shae? Like, are you walking down the street and people are like, "Hey, isn't that little girl from the Hatred?"
They don't really say anything. They just kind of look at me like stunned. And I'm like, "Hi." And yeah, people have been noticing me a lot more.
It's one of those things they probably know where you're from. Like, is that girl from The Hatred? I think it's that girl turns into a monster.
Yeah.
So Shae, when you were filming The Hatred, I wanted to ask, what were one of your favorite moments from filming The Hatred?
Filming it, well, I like the bed scene where I'm on top of the bed, or the hide and seek scene where the monster is like behind me, yet I don't know it, and then I turn around and then I kind of see her with my side eye. But that was pretty cool.
So have you gotten a chance yet, Shae? Have you seen a final cut of the film yet?
I have at the premiere, and this movie is very scary. I was like closing my eyes halfway through the film, yet I was in it. So yeah, it was very scary.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, you're in the film, and you're feeling the same as the audience, which is so key. You're feeling that experience that the audience is going to feel, and I wanted to ask too, Shae, as we talk about The Hatred, what are some of the things that you hope people take away from it? Whether in terms of something that you've done in there, like your acting, or maybe even something with the movie. Is there anything that you hope that audiences walk away from the film with?
Yes, I hope they walk away with the doggy door scene where I scream no, and I feel like that was a really part of the movie because, I'm my best friend, not my best friend, but, she's becoming my best friend, my babysitter, the person who is taking care of me now is getting drug away by the scary person. And which is like horrifying because you know that she probably isn't going to make it out alive. Luckily she did, but I screamed no, and that is a really emotional part of the movie. So I hope they take that away with them.
So Shae, and that's going to be awesome. I can't wait to actually check out this movie, by the way. And I wanted to, also ask as a follow up to that. We've talked a lot about, you acting and moving from Iowa to LA. So I wanted to ask too, Shae, is what advice would you have for maybe a child actor, maybe your age, or maybe even a little older? What would you ask, or I'm sorry, what would you tell them if they were to ask you, do you have any advice for child actors that just want to get started?
I would say be yourself. Don't go into the audition being someone else that you aren't. Be yourself. Be your fun self. Don't be someone else. Just be yourself.
And that is awesome advice, Shae. And like you said before, how you were just come on the audition and you can do it right then and there. And it's true though. You have to have that good personality. You have to have the ability to do the character. And like you said too, Shae, you had a good piece of advice. There's always another audition, right? And if you do happen to mess up, there's always another audition, right?
Yes, there's always another audition out there for you. It's not the end of the world if you mess up on one line. You just start back at the beginning of the line and just go on with it and act like you never messed up. And if you do mess up, there's always another audition.
So Shae, when the Hatred comes out on September the 12th, how are you going to celebrate? Are you going to watch the movie on Blu-ray? Are you going to call your friends over and have them watch it with you, or something like that?
We're probably going to have a little viewing party.
That's awesome. I'm probably gonna have a viewing party too at my house. I'm in here in Philadelphia, by the way. So I'm probably gonna have
Oh wow!
Yeah. So Philadelphia, it's it's a. I mean, do you have a perception of Philadelphia, Shae?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So, because sometimes people find out I'm from Philly and they start asking me questions like, "Did you guys really do this or that?" It's just the city. How sports teams are, and all that stuff. But just to get back to acting, I just want to ask Shae, in closing, is there anything that we didn't get to discuss, or anything that you wanted to discuss, or even just to say, just to sort of put a period at the end of this whole conversation?
No, not much. Not anything.
Cool. Shae, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And I just want to ask, I have one final question, and that is, where can people find you on social media?
At Shae Smolik, ShaeSmolik, on Musical.ly and Instagram.
And I will link to all of that, everyone, in the show notes at DaveBullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis. Shae, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you
for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, Shae. I am just you're such a great interview, by the way. I just want to mention that.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Shae. Have a great night. And again, I'm going to be talking to you soon because you're going to see me tagging your social media all over the place on so when I'm promoting the Hatred and stuff like this. So we'll be talking again on social media.
Alrighty, perfect. Thank you for having me, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Shae. You do the same.
Bye.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.